Hi everybody. So on today's video, I'm going to be talking about Clementine Barnabet. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She is an accused American serial killer. The reason I say accused is because to be a serial killer, you have to fall under certain criteria of killing multiple people. She is only convicted of killing one person, but claimed to have killed as many as 35. So that's why she's only accused. It's not a confirmed serial killer. So she was born in 1894 in St. Martinsville, Louisiana, to Nina Porter and Raymond Barnabet. And she had three brothers, so she was one of four children. And her father was reported to have been very abusive, and her family moved to Lafayette in 1909. So she would have been about 15 at the time. As I said, she's convicted of one murder, but claimed to have killed at least 35. So there's actually somebody that wrote a little bit about her. Sorry, hiccups. Professor Van McLaughlin wrote, between 1911 and 1912, in towns along the Southern Pacific Railroad line running through Louisiana and Texas, a minimum of 12 African American families were murdered in their homes. All the murders occurred at night, and an axe was used to fracture the skulls of the victims. Only one person, Clementine Barnabet, was ever punished for any of these homicides. So that is one of the main times that she is ever mentioned in regards to her crimes, or in association with any of the crimes that happened around the time that she was killing or accused to have been killing. Clementine's father was actually arrested in suspicion of murdering the Fort Andrews family, who had been killed in February of 1911, but he was ultimately released due to insufficient evidence against him. There just wasn't enough to keep him in jail for the murders. But Clementine and her brother Zephyrin, and potentially her father's mistress, that's a little bit unconfirmed, but there was some talk about their father's mistress being involved, testified against their father, saying that he did it, saying that he boasted about the murders and was covered in blood when he arrived home the night of the murders. And that ultimately led to their father's rearrest. So he was arrested again and he was convicted based on their testimonies. So in that case, or actually not that case, different case, I have some notes that I'm reading off of, and I'm trying to just make sure that I'm getting all the information, you guys. So in one of the cases, Norbert and Asima Randall of Lafayette were murdered with their four children, totaling 6 family members, in a similar fashion to the Andrews family, while Raymond was in prison, awaiting the retrial and on an appeal. So that's one of the ones where, although their father was convicted of the one, and it was another murder happened in a similar style that could not be connected to him because he was in jail. And it was associated with the family due to the father having been arrested, as well as Clementine and the family lived only a few blocks away, and based on some alleged evidence and accusations, she came under some suspicion due to blood being found on their fence latch for their gate, and on clothes that were found in her bedroom. So there's some blood on some clothes that was in her bedroom. And axe murders, all done in a very similar fashion, continued while Clementine and her brother were in jail, casting doubt on the involvement. So and ultimately her brother was released due to lack of evidence against him specifically. So Clementine officially confessed to 35 murders. And she explained that it was in connection to a church that she was a part of, called the Church of Sacrifice, which is an offshoot of the Christ's Sanctified Holy Church congregation in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So actually looked that up a little bit because I had never heard of the Church of Sacrifice. So what I was able to find on that specifically was the Church of Sacrifice, aka the Human Gang 5, or the Human 5 Gang, was a cult existing in Louisiana in early 1900s, based around black magic and voodoo, in particular gaining riches via human sacrifice. The cult leader was Clementine, and historians dispute if the cult/church actually existed, as well as Clementine's crimes. Because although Clementine's crimes, she claimed 35 people were killed, there's some that cannot be associated with her because she would be in jail at the time of the murders. Which is why she was like, hey, it's part of my church thing. So they could, technically, she could claim association because it was part of her church. So when she made the claim that it was in connection to the Church of Sacrifice, the church that she was a part of, she claimed a priestess had given her and her friends conjure bags, which are good luck charms found in hoodoo, which I believe is a style of voodoo or kind of an offshoot of voodoo. I could be wrong on that, so don't come at me if I am wrong on that. That would grant the possessor supernatural powers and make them undetectable to authorities. Which ultimately, from Clementine's confession, is what led to her first murder, because she wanted to test out the powers of this conjure bag. She wanted to make sure that it actually worked. Authorities at the time actually said that her confession was super, super contradictory. As she claimed to have committed the murders alone, and then said that she committed them as part of a group, as part of her church. And she would say, like, hey, these are the people that are my accomplices. They're a part of the church. They helped me kill these people. None of them were charged. None of them were arrested. There wasn't enough proof. So a very quick kind of rundown of the murders that happened in order of when they happened, how many people were killed, and what evidence was found. So Edna Opelices and her 3 kids were murdered in Rain, Louisiana in 1909. The family had been murdered with an axe with buckets of blood at the scene and weapon propped up against the wall. The Briars family, including 1 son, were murdered in an almost identical fashion in 1911. The Andrews family, which I had mentioned earlier, in 1911. The Randall family, including the nephew, only difference was Norbert was shot in the head. And then 3 more murders after Clementine's arrest, but were associated with her because of her cult, and they had left the message Human 5, which is where they got the Church of Sacrifice got the nickname the Human 5 Gang. And in 1912, she was sentenced to serve time in the Louisiana State Penitentiary. And she actually escaped in July of 1913, but she was quickly brought back and rearrested and everything. And in 1923, so about 21, or not 21, my math apparently sucks. 11 years after the initial convictions and sentencing of Clementine, she was released after an unspecified surgical operation causing her to believe to have been cured. Although it was not a lobotomy, it's never 100% determined what the procedure actually was. And it's been argued that if she was actually believed to have been behind these murders, it is unlikely that she would have been released after only a few years. Authorities most likely don't believe the accusations either. So this is why, although part of the reason she claimed 35 victims, but she was only ever convicted of one, because it's believed that the police did not actually believe that she committed all of them or had a role in committing all of them. So modern analysis actually cast doubt on her involvement as well. So to this day, people still do not believe that she had the amount of involvement that she says that she had. And she could have been involved in some of them, but not to the extent that she was claiming. And she said that a lot of them, or it said, not she said, it said that, and I'm just reading kind of some notes at the very bottom that I jotted down real quick. Some of them, but not all, could have been done by the serial killer Paul Mueller, with others having been done by a copycat, because he had a similar MO to the murders that Clementine was claiming. So it very easily could have been him, and he was working in the same area at the time. So Bill James, and a historian, and Rachel MacArthur James, in the book The Man from the Train, write nothing that Clementine said about the murders A, can be confirmed by any other party, or B, has the ring of truth about it. A great deal of what she said is demonstrably false. So although she is an accused serial killer and a lot of people don't know about her, there's so much doubt over whether she actually did this, that nobody can say that she was an actual serial killer. Again, because although she can claim something, she was so contradictory in her confessions that she just really can't be held accountable for any of it. So I just thought she was kind of interesting because I had personally never heard of her. And even though she may not have been a serial killer, I still found it kind of interesting that she wanted all the attention of, hey, I'm a serial killer. Hey, Church of Sacrifice, let's talk about it. And there was never any belief behind her actually being a serial killer. But if any of you guys have any suggestions on topics or people that you'd like me to talk about, I do enjoy looking around the world a little bit. So if you guys have any international serial killers or criminals that you'd like me to talk about, or even ones from here in the US that don't get a ton of discussion, leave their name down in the comment. Any thoughts, concerns, emotional outbursts, leave those in the comments as well. I'm totally willing to read them.